Barakata Yahweh, Barakata Yahushai, Ba'ishim, Barakakudash, Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Ba'ishim, Yahushai. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone who ruled and teach well. And peace and salutations to Ya'akim out there pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure until the end. This is the brother Ra'aya with another video, and I'm going to start it off with Revelation 13 verse 16. And he causeth all, that he being the current elite rulers of the world who are Edomites, such as the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the Gettys, the DuPonts, the Warburgs, you name it, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark, the mark of the beast, which is the RFID/NFC microchip implant in their right hand or in their foreheads. Verse 17, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. And when the microchip implant is mandatorily implemented, those that don't take it will be a pariah in society and won't be able to do anything without it, and eventually will be faced with death for not taking the mark of the beast. And with the way things are looking with this coronavirus, it could very well be the factor that brings about this mandatory implementation. And in this video, I'll be reading from a few articles to show the possible pathway to the mandatory implementation of the mark of the beast via the coronavirus. As a lot of brothers have been saying, say this coronavirus gets really serious and you've got tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands to millions of people dying from it. The authorities would have to come out and say, look, we need everybody to be mandatorily microchipped so we can track your whereabouts and see what your health conditions are and whether you've been vaccinated or not. And if you haven't, then we're going to bring you to a quarantine camp to keep you under observation. And then eventually, in order to purge this virus from getting any worse, we're going to put you to death by putting your head in a guillotine. But whether it's the coronavirus, some other pandemic, an economic collapse, you name it, that leads to the mandatory implementation of the mark of the beast, you sincere Akim out there should know not to take it. Because if you find yourself being thrown into a concentration camp and faced with death, the Most High can easily get you out of that situation if you show your faith in him. But if you do take the mark of the beast, you're an automatic dead man, as it says in Revelation chapter 14. I'm going to read verse 9 through 10. And the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast and his image, Esau, Edom's political, financial, and military system, the NATO-EU alliance, which the U.S. is a part of, the last leg of the fourth beast in Daniel chapter 2, the reincarnated Roman Empire, and receive his mark, the microchip implant, in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of the Most High, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation, and he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone, nuclear missiles, as well as the laser beams from the chariot of the Most High, which people ignorantly refer to as so-called UFOs, in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb, Yahushai HaMashiach, whom the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. You're going to be destroyed if you take the mark of the beast, and you'll have to come back through the loins of the elect, the 144,000 and the righteous 1/3, the rest of the righteous 1/3 who didn't take the mark. And you're going to have your head down knowing that you didn't make it on that first go around because you feared men more than the Most High. So let's get into some of these articles. My first article is on RT.com, and the title reads, China unveils mobile app that detects coronavirus close contact. A mobile application developed by the Chinese government and a state-run tech company is reported to warn users when they are at imminent risk of contracting the killer coronavirus, which has claimed more than 900 lives. The close contact detector has become available to Chinese users, requiring only their name, phone number, and ID for installation, Xinhua reported on Monday. The app then lets the user know if they have been in contact with someone infected by the deadly 2019 nCoV virus. But with new information coming out about the coronavirus, somebody could not show symptoms while being infected for up to 24 days. So this pretty much renders this app useless. You could have the app, but still not show the symptoms. so you wouldn't pop up and people would be around you and contract the virus and get sick. So they'd have to come up with a better measure, such as a microchip implant, which constantly monitors your health and shows whether you've been vaccinated or not. The General Office of the State Council, the National Health Commission, or NHC, and the government-owned China Electronics Technology Group Corporations, CETC, teamed up to design the potentially life-saving application. It's unclear how the app works and how accurate it is. The NHC only said that close contact refers to someone who, with no protection, shared the same office, classroom, or house with confirmed coronavirus patients, or traveled with them on the same flight or enclosed air-conditioned train. This is not the first online solution that has been designed during the sweeping coronavirus outbreak. Qihu 360, China's biggest cybersecurity company, has also come up with an application that lets users check if they traveled by plane or train with someone who caught the virus. Search engine Baidu has released an add-on for its Baidu Map app, which locates confirmed and suspected cases in cities that have been put on lockdown. The map also shows real-time data on the coronavirus, including traffic updates and epidemic control checkpoints. And not only do they have this app, but over in Hong Kong, they're now making people wear wristbands that monitor their whereabouts if they've been suspected of being infected or not. This is an article from SCMP, or the South China Morning Post.com, titled Coronavirus, 30 Hong Kong families under home quarantine to get tracking wristbands. Names of families, residential buildings will also be posted on the Department of Health's website. Health officials urge people not to worry about the possible infection, saying cases are low risk. This article came out on February 3rd. And there's the wristband, that mark in the right hand. Victor Lam, the government's chief information officer, displays the device to be used by the quarantined families. 30 Hong Kong families returning from Hubei province, center of the coronavirus outbreak in mainland China, will need to wear electronic tracking wristbands at home as rising quarantine needs force the government to roll out alternative measures. The names of the families' residential buildings will also be posted on the Department of Health's website. The government sought to reassure the public on Monday that the cases were low risk, even though now you've got information coming out that a city in Vietnam has been put under quarantine because of the coronavirus, and more cases are popping up all over the planet. The first case just popped up in Egypt, the first known case in the continent of Africa. And also the first confirmed deaths from the coronavirus outside of China have been reported in Taiwan and the Philippines. And while the official numbers say that about 1,700 people have died from the coronavirus in China and that about 60,000 are infected, numbers coming out from the alternative media paint a very different picture. A Chinese company named Tencent got in a lot of heat for accidentally releasing numbers that said about 22,000 Chinese had died from the coronavirus. And there was a Chinese billionaire who came out and said that about 50,000 Chinese have died from the coronavirus and that there are even more who are infected. So as usual, the mainstream media isn't giving you the full story. The government said 500 electronic wristbands were ready for use for quarantine purposes. Hong Kong residents who had traveled to Hubei over the previous 14 days would be ordered to stay at home, with the quarantine period lasting 2 weeks. Teams will carry out home visits, checking users' health, including their temperature. Anyone who violates the quarantine order risks a prison term of up to 6 months and a fine of 5,000 Hong Kong dollars, or 641 US dollars. The wristbands were rolled out as 70 of the 97 units of existing quarantine facilities in 3 holiday camps were occupied by people who had close contact with confirmed cases. Officials said those who were seen as less risky, returning from Hubei without symptoms or close contact with cases, would be quarantined at home, and 30 families would use the wristbands first. And these phone apps to track the coronavirus and these wristbands to track it could very well be methods to psychologically prepare people for eventually taking the microchip implant. And to the average Joe out there, this would sound like paranoia and jumping to conclusions if it weren't for the fact that there are already systems in place to have people implanted with a microchip to follow their health status and allow them to get vaccinated. It's called ID 2020. This is an article from medium.com titled Implantable Digital ID Vaccination System in Development. Yikes. Would you agree to have a microchip implanted into your body? That's the question that Microsoft and a group of pharmaceutical companies are asking. Microsoft is spearheading an initiative called ID 2020, a program aimed at giving every human on the planet a digital ID like a fingerprint in order to keep everyone connected. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their forehead. What is ID 2020? The ID 2020 Alliance is an initiative helmed by Bill Gates and aimed at getting digital IDs right. According to the official ID 2020 site, current methods of official identification are archaic and not accessible by everyone, such as apps on your phone or wristbands. As the Alliance claims, the current methods of digital identification are easy to spoof, and proper online ID certification hasn't become a reality just yet. As companies are only now defining what a proper official online ID looks like, ID 2020 seeks to help define what a good digital ID is. Gates and the board of the Alliance have a certification mark that they award to companies and technologies that meet the criteria of being good digital ID tech. What's the connection to vaccinations? The idea behind some of ID 2020's more controversial technologies is a digital ID that can be implanted into someone in chip form. Ostensibly, this is to help homeless people or people in developing countries by giving them access to blockchain-powered identification. In theory, the practice would have people receiving free vaccinations through the Bill Gates Foundation if they have an ID chip implant. Again, say the coronavirus or some other pandemic spreads across the planet and kills off hundreds of thousands to millions of people. You have to get this microchip implant in order to receive the vaccine to be safe from it. And if you don't get the microchip implant, not only do you not get the vaccine, but you're going to be thrown into a quarantine camp. In turn, these implants would carry encrypted, blockchain-backed data that allow for easy access to services you can't normally get without an ID that they may neither buy nor sell, save he that has the mark. It could also help social workers and researchers keep up with who is up to date on their vaccinations. Why has this got some people worried? Some people are concerned that Bill Gates, one of the richest people on the planet, is working with a private alliance of companies to create a digital ID standard. Between the power he wields financially through Microsoft and politically via his charitable organization, it is a bit unnerving to think of him microchipping every citizen. And Bill Gates is one of these upper echelon people who definitely rubs shoulders with the elites and is on board with that New World Order agenda. However, it seems the program isn't as nefarious as it sounds at first. A blockchain ID aimed at empowering the most impoverished and homeless doesn't sound like a bad thing at all to us. Well, of course it doesn't, because you're a shill. That said, others are concerned about the idea of being tracked in general. Is this something you'd ever agree to have done? Not if you're in your right mind. And there are already examples of people getting a microchip implanted through ID 2020. This is an article from counterglobalist.com, waiting for it to load, titled City of Austin, Texas, Injecting Homeless with Trackable Microchips. Big Pharma is formally teaming up with the technology market to match immunization with computerized biometrics, suggesting people will quickly be microchipped, tracked, as well as inevitably controlled with a worldwide biometric identification matrix. The ID 2020 Alliance, as it's being called, is an electronic identification system that wants to leverage immunization as a means of injecting little silicon chips in users' bodies in partnership with the Global Alliance for Immunization and Vaccines, likewise called Gavi, the state of Bangladesh, and even numerous additional partners in government, academia, and humanitarian relief. The ID 2020 Alliance wishes to herald this mark of the beast as a means to check on every human being residing on Earth. Comparable to the way livestock are registered with ear tags, this global partnership desires all humans to be immunized with electronic monitoring chips that are going to produce a smooth tracking system for the New World Order to handle the populaces of the planet effortlessly. We are implementing a forward-looking approach to digital identity that gives individuals control over their own personal information while still building off existing systems and programs, states Anhir Chowdhury, policy advisor at A22I, the Bangladesh State's Access to Information Program. The government of Bangladesh recognizes that the design of digital identity systems carries far-reaching implications for individuals' access to services and livelihoods, and we are eager to pioneer this approach, he includes. ID 2020 chips are additionally being injected right into the bodies of vagrants in Austin, Texas, rich and poor. While the ID 2020 system's screening occurs mostly in the third world, the team claims it's currently dealing with federal government officials in the United States to begin microchipping users with inoculation. As an example, in Austin, Texas, the homeless populace is currently being used as a giant test subject for ID 2020's RFID chip injection system. The ID 2020 team swears these chips are going to help equip homeless individuals by apparently providing control over their individual ID information. The city of Austin, ID 2020, and several other partners are working together with homeless people and the service providers who engage with them to develop a blockchain-enabled digital identity platform called MyPass to empower homeless people with their own identity data, pins Chris Burt for biometricsupdate.com, and it's all going to run smoothly through this 5G Wi-Fi getting pushed everywhere. ID 2020 is additionally injecting refugee camps with its microchip shots via 2 debut pilot systems called iRespond, as well as Everest. According to documents, iRespond has actually improved continuity of care for over 3,000 evacuees obtaining medical therapies for long-term diseases. Everest, on the other hand, has assisted with the provision of access to critical energy subsidies and a range of additional services with secure and user-centric digital identities without relying on a smartphone, Burt notes. Think about that app that the Chinese are pushing to let people know who's infected with the coronavirus or not. All of this is prepping the general public for an inevitable requirement of microchip inoculations, which will most likely be demanded for each person in order to deal in the marketplace that they may neither buy nor sell. Chowdhury freely confessed this in specifying that computerized identification systems will most likely be mandatory for individuals' access to livelihoods and services. Simply put, the Bible is correct. A worldwide ID system is in the works that is going to become demanded for users to operate in civilization. Without these microchips in their bodies, individuals will not have the capacity to function, not to mention consume, and it's all occurring right in front of us. ID 2020 is a component of the supposed real ID, which are going to quickly be demanded for those that desire to take a trip. Real ID are going to additionally be utilized as a backdoor technique of applying compulsory injection laws for adults. Hey, these heathens can see that the microchip implant is the mark of the beast. So what's the excuse for you Israelite camps out there that say that the mark of the beast isn't the microchip implant? Salakia. And now I'm going to go to another article on zerohedge.com titled, U.S. Military Initiates Global Campaign Plan for Pandemic. And this can pretty much be looked at as a medical martial law globally. Again, say the coronavirus or some other pandemic starts killing off a lot of people. These different initiatives can be enacted to where they say you have to be mandatorily implanted with a microchip through a ID 2020 type system to monitor your health and allow you to get a vaccination. And if you don't get the microchip implant, you'll be thrown into a quarantine camp. It appears that the U.S. military is taking this coronavirus outbreak extremely seriously. An executive order has been issued which has initiated the implementation of the Department of Defense Global Campaign Plan for Pandemic Influenza and Infectious Diseases 3551-13. We don't know all the details of the plan, but we do know that it instructs U.S. military officials to prepare for widespread outbreaks. Many in the mainstream media continue to try to convince us that this virus is not much more dangerous than the common flu, but if that is true, then why is our military taking such a dramatic step? The following comes from a Military Times article. An executive order issued by the Joint Staff and approved by Defense Secretary Mark Esper this month directed Northern Command and Geographic Combatant Commanders to initiate pandemic plans, which include ordering commanders to prepare for widespread outbreaks and confining service members with a history of travel to China. The Navy and Marine Corps messages issued Tuesday and Wednesday respectively reference an executive order directing U.S. Northern Command to implement the Department of Defense Global Campaign Plan for Pandemic Influenza and Infectious Diseases 3551-13. For now, we are not being told the specific details of this plan, and when Northern Command was asked about it, they issued a very vague statement. We coordinate with other combatant commands to assess potential impacts in the event of a pandemic, and we ensure the U.S. military is poised to respond as required, said Northern Command in a statement emailed to Military Times. The military profession fosters a culture of planning, and the fact that we are coordinating planning efforts across the geographical combatant commands is consistent with how we prepare to respond if directed. Thankfully, the virus is not spreading widely inside the United States so far, but that could change at any time, and on Wednesday, a 14th U.S. case was confirmed. A second person evacuated from Wuhan, China, to a U.S. Marine base near San Diego has been diagnosed with the new coronavirus, raising the tally of confirmed cases in the United States to 14. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reported on Wednesday. The patient was among 232 individuals who had been placed under quarantine at the Marine Corps Air Station Miramar after being airlifted from the epicenter of the coronavirus outbreak in Wuhan earlier this month, CDC spokesman Anna Toro said. But 14 confirmed cases is just a tiny drop in the bucket compared to more than 59,000 confirmed cases in China. We should be thankful for the low number of cases in this country, but Dr. Nancy Messonnier is warning that we are likely to see community spread in the U.S. at some point. Top health officials prepped Americans for the prospect of novel coronavirus spreading in communities in the United States during a Wednesday news conference. At some point, we are likely to see community spread in the U.S., said Dr. Nancy Messonnier, director of the National Center for Immunization and Respiratory Diseases. And the U.S. military is also getting prepared. Not only are they enacting this global initiative, but they're opening up quarantine camps in the U.S. This is an article I used in a previous video on the economiccollapseblog.com titled, Why is the government turning 11 military bases inside the United States into quarantine camps? and I've heard that there may be actually 14 of them. If this coronavirus outbreak is not a serious threat, then why is the U.S. government preparing to quarantine victims all over America? As you will see below, 11 U.S. military bases located close to major airports are being converted into quarantine centers for potential patients. When I first learned about this, I was greatly alarmed because we have all seen what is going on in China right now. People are literally being physically dragged out of their homes and are being forcibly relocated to mass quarantine camps with hordes of other very sick people. Sadly, many of them will never come out of those camps alive. If this virus starts spreading like wildfire here in the United States, is it possible that something similar could start happening here? The vast majority of the confirmed cases are still in China, but over the last couple of weeks, the number of cases in the rest of the world has escalated dramatically. Back on January 20th, there were only 4 confirmed cases outside of China, and now there are 464. At this point, there are victims in at least 28 different countries, and that number is almost certain to keep growing. The reason why this virus has already spread to so many nations is because it is highly contagious. Scientists have discovered that it can be transmitted from person to person very easily. It has an incubation period of up to 24 days, and it can survive on smooth surfaces for up to 9 days. If this coronavirus starts spreading very rapidly in the Western world, it is going to create a tremendous amount of panic. Many are still trying to compare this virus to the common flu, but that is a huge mistake. China would never lock down major cities for weeks on end for the flu. And right now, there are about 500 million Chinese under lockdown. Obviously, something really big is happening, and the U.S. government is preparing for a worst-case scenario. According to the Miami Herald, 11 military bases inside the United States are currently in the process of being transformed into quarantine centers. 11 military bases near major airports in the United States are setting up quarantine centers for possible coronavirus patients, the Department of Defense said. The Department of Health and Human Services asked the Pentagon for quarantine space in case beds fill up at other quarantine coronavirus centers around the country, according to a DoD statement. Is this an indication that the threat this virus poses to our country is far greater than what we are being told? The Department of Defense has released a statement about this new program, and in that statement, the 11 military bases were specifically identified. JB Pearl Harbor in Hickam, Hawaii, Great Lakes Training Center, Navy Base, Illinois, Naval Air Station, Joint Reserve Base, Texas, March, ARB, California, Travis, AFB, California, Dobbins, ARB, Georgia, Fort Hamilton, New York, Naval Base, Kitsap, Washington, Joint Base, Anacostia, D.C., Joint Base, McGuire-Dix, Lakehurst, New Jersey, and Fort Custer Training Center. So as you can see, if this coronavirus or some other pandemic leads to widespread death, the authorities have all the pieces in play. And I'm gonna close it out with this video from the YouTube page Paul Cottrell titled "Coronavirus and the Health and Human Services Department" by Dr. Paul Cottrell.
Hello, this is Dr. Paul Cottrell. And I had a viewer send me some information that is extremely interesting, and I'm going to give the sources of that information, the documents, the PDF documents. And it is from the Federal Register. Okay, and as you know, I'm a little concerned about the BioPatriot Act, right? Well,
the BioPatriot Act.
Through the Department of Health and Human Services, there is it seems like some legislation, or not legislation, more like agency rulings, whereby it has guidelines on how they're going to handle people under, an epidemic kind of situation or a disease kind of situation.
U.S. military initiates global campaign plan for pandemic.
And it's called the Control of Communicable Diseases Proposed Rule, is the PDF I have. So I'm gonna share this, and I've been reading it, and there's some disturbing things in there where some of these things about the Patriot Act, the Bio-Patriot Act, are kind of buried in agency procedures, standard procedures. I don't think a lot of American citizens know this. I didn't know this. And this is probably where the HHS is, they have things working within their own agency where they can kind of control you and contain you, right? Then on top of the actual hearing that took place on the 5th of this month, where they're asking for a new cabinet position to kind of deal with it. So this is like, well, maybe we should have a larger agency, or more bureaucracy on this. What I'd like the viewers to do for me, there's two PDFs. Both of them are about, one's 80 pages and one's about 50, 60 pages. It's a PDF, and you can search through the PDF using the find function. The two things that I'm really interested in is forced vaccinations and what do they do? Forced vaccinations and what forced vaccinations and what forced vaccinations and what do they do? Forced vaccinations and what do they do when they actually detain you?
Forced vaccinations, forced microchip implants, ID 2020.
All right. So if because there's like 19,000 people on my channel now, or close to it, if just 100 people kind of like focus on that and like search and like highlight, well, that doesn't make sense, I'm worried about that, and somewhat kind of like call me and summarize it on the air, what they think is going on, that would help a lot. But I'm a little concerned about it, but I just really don't have the time to really read in depth, government agency documents. But I did some cursory read through on vaccines and whatnot. There's some alarming stuff, and there may be a viewer here that is like really good at.
Pretty much it with that video. But as you all can see, things are quickly escalating out here. 2020 has been deemed the year of prophecy and only expected to get more crazy as we get closer and closer to the return of Yahushai. So with this video, I hope you sincere Akim are edified. Just keep strong and keep pushing this word. We're almost out of this final wicked captivity of the heathens, chiefly Esau, Edom. And as always, I'm going to say Abba Ball, Kwam Yasharala. Until next time, Shalom.